Good morning, everyone. This is John for MTG Nexus with some Jund Death Shadow. Actually, technically 4-color if you include Draenith Magistrate, but basically Jund Death Shadow with Lurrus in the sideboard. As a friendly reminder, if you like what you're seeing on the channel, please consider subscribing or giving us a follow here on Twitch, as we aim to become the most informative modern channel on YouTube's and on Twitch here. So, originally wasn't going to stream this morning, didn't sleep all that well last night, but then tried to go back to sleep and didn't work. So, here we are. This is the deck that won the poll versus, it was Jund Death Shadow versus Boros Burn for this morning's stream. So this is a version that recently did well in the Super IQ, I believe. No, Modern Premiere, sorry, by Dark Yanza. This deck's a little bit interesting in what it's trying to do. It's a Death Shadow Traverse the Evenwald deck, so you have your 4 of Death Shadow, 4 of Tarmogoyf, then some 1-ofs in Kroxa, Scavenging Ooze, and Draenith Magistrate. Draenith Magistrate, obviously the most interesting in terms of being able to shut down other companions. Beyond that, obviously Ooze has its place when you're trying to eat graveyards, etc. And then Kroxa, obviously, this is kind of a staple of the new regular Jund decks and the new Lurrus Jund decks that are non-Death Shadow based. Beyond that, you have things like Unearth, Footfall Crater, Seal of Fire. These 3 in particular are enchantments you can in your graveyard quite easily to trigger Traverse the Evenwald, as well as the Mishra's Baubles package that is kind of synonymous with any style of Death Shadow or Lurrus decks that have been floating around for a while. Beyond that, you have some removal in form of Fatal Push and Dismember. Notably, no Lightning Bolts in this particular list. Find that interesting, although this deck's a little bit different than some of the Death Shadow Jund and Delver variants that we've been running into of late. And then beyond that, your sideboard is a very interesting mix of cards. One Gemstone Cavern kind of stands out as a unique inclusion. This is kind of like for when you're going to be on the draw, gives you the ability to jump ahead potentially. Tormod's Crypt and Nihil Spell Bombs. Obviously, these have been pretty good with Lurrus package against any type of graveyard or graveyard synergy deck. So, things like Bant Snow, things like, Jund Mirrors or Lurrus Mirrors. Other than Burn, I wouldn't bring it in against Burn personally. 2 copies of Vampiric Link. Not 100% sure, unless these are just for like random aggressive matchups. I have not seen Vampiric Link out of anyone in a while. It's definitely good tech against something like an Eidolon or the Great Revel, especially if you're on the Tarmogoyf and not the Death Shadow plan. 1 copy of Alpine Moon helps you slow down Tron a little bit. Also can potentially catch Valakut decks in a bit of a pinch, although it's not the best in those matchups. 2 copies of Veil of Summer for any style of blue or black deck with discard or counterspells. 3 copies Collective Brutality because Burn's a rough matchup generally for Death Shadow. 1 Goblin Crater Maker is pretty reasonable. It's a good way to answer Eldrazi as well as small creatures. And then 1 copy of Engineered Explosives as a way to catch basically up to anything at X4, because with Godless Shrine, Blood Crypt, Overgrown Tomb, you have access to 4 colors of mana. Obviously, the only mana you can't currently access is blue. So, it's interesting that they chose to include Draenith Magistrate here over something like Stubborn Denial or such. So, that said, I only have a little bit of time this morning, so let us jump into a league and see how far we can get. I thought you have all these things and go all the way down here just to go to a league. So, and M. Hayashi is leading the Undefeated Trophies, and that is a Burn player. He's the one that plays some interesting brews. It would have been his deck that we would have played this morning for Burn, should we have gotten that far. But, is what it is. So the one thing, this deck also happens to have Wrenn and 6 and then Abrupt Decay Assassin's Trophy. So the one thing I'm noting about this list is the lack of Street Wraith, which obviously you can't play when you're playing Lurrus. So it'd be interesting to note like how much that affects our ability to play a relatively quick Dash Shadow. It's usually like one of the hallmark cards of Dash Shadow decks is having Street Wraith. And it's one of the trade-offs you make for playing Lurrus, is you can't obviously have Street Wraith in your deck. So Sharpen's good luck. And also, there was something the other day I mentioned, if you have split cards, and I found out, of course, according to Twitter, is if you play a split card, it doesn't allow you to reveal Lurrus out of your deck. It's like we boarded in Wear-Tear and we weren't able to reveal Lurrus, was kind of the reason why Lurrus wasn't able to show up on that one game with Burn, which was, I was trying to figure out why it wasn't allowing me to reveal the companion. Apparently that is the current bug that's going on. Let's doing this 6. This hand's reasonable against a creature deck, not great against, obviously, mid-range or control deck. Seal of Fire and Dismember. And then I say that, and we automatically get paired against likely a control deck here. Guess it doesn't 100% matter what we lead on here. Path to Exile, Archmage's Charm, Archmage's Charm. Well, double Archmage's Charm is going to be a little bit tough to beat, but we need to be able to defend our threat, so. Looks like we're up against Jeskai of some kind. So it would be kind of annoying if they drew an answer somewhere out of the... Alright, so that was one of their draw steps. Play Seal of Fire either way. Another card type in the graveyard. We need to try to be as efficient with our clock as we can before they can draw out of their current issues. Yep. So know these two cards are currently in their hand. Beyond that, we're not quite sure what's going on over there. So I don't know if I'm supposed to fetch the white source to show it to them or not. I think I'm going to do it just to kind of mess with them a little bit, because Draenith Magistrate's probably not staying in this matchup anyway, so. It's possible I'm supposed to be jamming these other threats just to keep them from... And then they have Snapcaster Mage anyway, so... question becomes, am I supposed to kill my own guy just to be able to get it back with Lurrus next turn? I don't think so. They're definitely a Jeskai deck. Use Dismember to deal with Snapcaster Mage. And they still get to hold up Archmage's Charm. That's kind of annoying. Maybe we'll draw a discard spell next turn. We'll give ourselves one more turn to try to draw a discard before we just jam. Yeah, it's just really hard to fight through multiple copies of Archmage's Charm. Well, that could certainly be something that would bait them into countering. It's actually possible I'm supposed to leave on Death Shadow, and no, Death Shadow is not good in this spot. Never mind. Death Shadow just gets stolen by Archmage's Charm, so I have to bait with a run in 6 here. Get off on the Magistrate. Does also mess with Snapcaster Mage, so I'm honestly surprised this one doesn't see a little bit more play. Alright, let's lead off with an Inquisition. Do 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 do. Control players trying to figure out what to do. Have 10,000 cards in hand. Don't know what to do about an Inquisition. Okay. That's the last thing we have going on. So on to the sideboard of games. Veil of Summers coming in. Mainly to fight through all their bloody counter spells. Probably want the spell bombs. Just to fight a little bit on the card advantage access. Some regards, these fatal pushes, these dismembers are all kind of nonsense. Seal of Fires are a little bit nonsensical as well. What other cards would we even want to bring in? I guess we could conceivably bring in Collective Brutalities, at least in some number. And then of these 7, which one will we want to leave in addition to Assassin's Trophy and Abrupt Decay? That way we're not just like stone cold dead to certain things. Brutality can answer Snapcaster Mage in addition to doing the other stuff. Veil is important. Nihil Spellbomb is important. I think, like, they could obviously have other creatures, like, Monastery Mentors or that kind of stuff. So I think I go down those ones and leave in, like, 1 Seal of Fire. And then we'll adjust if we happen to see more creatures this game. Though I think we're already kind of a tremendous dog to any type of Mystic Sanctuary Island Path to Exile deck. Like, I took a gamble on Thought Seizing the Path, hoping that some way, somehow, the Tarmogoyf would get there. It was a long shot, but it was like our best plan against a hand that's like double Archmage's Charm and such. This hand's fine, a little bit awkward. I think it's a keep. I think we have Blood Crypt, right? Pretty sure there's a Blood Crypt in the 75. Actually, Blood Crypt wouldn't allow us to. So no copies of Stomping Ground, which means this Godless Shrine is going to be a little bit awkward. But we need access to green mana, and the red mana is kind of so. Supreme Verdict, Supreme Verdict. Rest in peace, It'll be hard to grind through that. And then draw Celestial or Colony off the top. Alright. Well, we already know what we're doing this turn, so let's just bobble them. Serum Vision's on top. Grabbing an Overgrown Tomb here, because the red mana isn't... It's important, like, if we draw a run-in 6 and some other random stuff, but I think the green cards in our hand are a little bit more important in the immediate short term. See what they do with their split. Wait in position here. Path, Helix, Helix. This is their hand currently. Okay. Spell Bomb doesn't do anything here, so I'm not going to hold up Veil of Summer. Cast Thoughtseize here. Just going to cast the Magistrate. It doesn't obviously do a ton on this board, but especially when they were probably going to verdict anyway. Ripping the land like a champ. Ashiok, okay. Ashiok's kind of actually annoying. Means Lightning Helix can kill Death Shadow most likely. Yep. Losing a Death Shadow to a Lightning Helix does not feel good. Alright, as much fun as this game is, I think I'm just going to move on here. Well, it doesn't have a whole lot going on, but our Tarmogoyfs are useless, our Traverse is useless. So, on to the next match. Matchup felt as bad as a... I think the only advantage that 4-color had normally was like that it had access to Stubborn Denial, and we just didn't have it in this build, so I guess the thought process is that control decks haven't been around yet, so no need to stretch your mana even further to play Stubborn Denial, although I did feel like that Jeskai deck could be fairly reasonably positioned against a lot of these Lurrus decks. Both a Lurrus deck, okay. So definitely keeping. To Bobble, because we were definitely looking for another land. Nurturing Peatland definitely qualifies. Against Burn. Well, so I want to get a red source here. Tarmogoyf's a 2/3 notably, but anything they would use on it to kill it will make it a 3/4. Should have played the Nurturing Peatland most likely. Boros Charm likely coming here. Yep. Wow. Oof. So both here. Another Tarmogoyf and go. Sure. Okay, so we know those were both on their hands. Okay, so Helix at the Tarmogoyf. So is there any way we can kill them? They're going to 12. Dismember would be 5. I think we just... So that deals me 4, puts me to 6. 7. Put me to... Okay, so this is definitely targeting Tarmogoyf. Puts him to 12. This attack will put me to 2, 4, down to 6. They will go to 15 if I allow this to happen. You've already played land for this turn, correct? Yeah, they played Inspiring Vantage. You are very much dead, so... Death Shadow math, always a pleasure. Okie dokie, so we definitely want the collective brutalities. Probably want engineered explosives. Beyond that, this is probably the Vampiric Link matchup. Cards that aren't good in this matchup. Dismember is a bit of a non-starter. Though it was definitely okay here. Definitely don't want Dismember running around in this. Renin 6 isn't great. Draeneth Magistrate's not like fantastic or anything. Probably shave 1 on Earth. Like a copy of Thoughtseize. Copy of Traverse and maybe the Magistrate. The Magistrate could theoretically keep them from casting Lurrus, but I don't think that's necessarily what this particular matchup's about. Definitely an interesting hand. Probably would prefer to have a Goyf in it, all things considered. themselves. So I think in this hand, since Burn usually does a pretty good job of damaging us, I want to fetch Swamp, Forest, use this as a red source potentially. Searing Blaze, Seal of Fire, Lightning Helix. Sure. So how aggressive with things do I want to be? Like, I could Brutality fully escalate. Put Link and a trophy in the graveyard. Could cast Death Shadow, put that in the graveyard. Like, I want to be patient, but at the same time, I also want to get a clock down. Just get that Searing Blaze out of their hand. Actually going to bring Lurrus down. Alright. Lurrus in the bauble, sure. Trophy Lurrus. Three card types in graveyard. Once again, both players are being patient. Eidolon, sure. In the new format, I don't know. I haven't had a chance to play with the rebuilt Grixis. Historically, I think I slightly prefer Grixis, but 4-color with Stubborn Denial has been pretty fun too. But both decks are very decision intensive. Not having an answer to Swift Spear is going to be a little rough. Yeah, I saw that one. I haven't had a chance to play with that one yet, so I was wondering what they were going to replace whatchamacallit with. So the reason I'm playing Death Shadow is to get Traverse so we can grab Tarmogoyf here. Because Vampiric Link is going to town on Eidolon. I suppose we could theoretically grab Kroxa. Is Kroxa better than Tarmogoyf in this spot? Play that tapped, and then next turn we can bring back Kroxa. Then eventually down the line, if they deal us enough damage, then we can just... I'm honestly surprised they haven't killed their own Eidolon yet. Okay, so you're going down to 6. So Tarmogoyf would put me to 13. I think I'm cool with that. Now our opponent can cast one more spell. So they've idle unlocked themselves. Okay. Like, I can literally sit here and wait on a Collective Brutality, a Seal of Fire. I don't have to do anything. Yeah, not only triple Eidolons, but them also locking themselves out of the game. Like, there we go. Alright, we got probably time for one more match, as long as it's not a super grindy affair. Well, this is an awkward starting hand. I think we gotta pitch it just because we have so many spells we can't cast in our hand. Only castable spells, Inquisition. Let me put back the Seal of Fire for now. Bobble ourselves. Crack this. Inquisition on top. As good a card as Inquisition is, I think I have to traverse this turn for a swamp. Looks like we're up against Gruul. Hey look, the Motobug. Sprawl, Bolt, and Bloodbraid Elf. Well, I think we'll take Sprawl here. Quick look at our just to hit land drops. I don't know though. It's an interesting spot for Gruul. Seriously, we Inquisition them and then they get one anyway. Okay. Now we just sit back until they play some spells. Here comes Bloodbird Elf, here comes Bloodbird Elf, right down Bloodbird Elf lane. Yep. Sure. Put us to 15. Gotta be mindful of that lightning bolt. I'm doing that deliberately to put us out of, or put these Death Shadows out of lightning bolt range. Question is, where do you throw this lightning bolt? Or do you just let me Inquisition it? Bolting my face. Seems like an interesting decision, Cotton. Scavenging is go. What mode do you cast? You can technically cast both modes this turn. Okay, sure. Come on, you know you want to put me to 1. They don't, huh? Lots of hasty stuff in their deck, so I'm not trying to make this game last forever. On board, we're currently taking 5, so Traverse, grab another Death Shadow, cast Death Shadow. Hold through turn. No whammies. Yeah, Razzie. Gruul's in an interesting spot. I don't know that it was in as good a spot as it was before. But I guess with Control taking a bit of a dip, it's in an okay spot. Alright, blow up my land, sure. Source is a triple block because they're all lethal. I do think that block was incorrect. I do think they're supposed to give up the Magus of the Moon. Because now only Glory Burner is lethal. Oh, don't. The problem with Tron dunking on the Lurrus piles is that somebody's phone's ringing downstairs. One of those two of the Lurrus piles in the form of Devoted Druid combo and Burn are actively bad matchups for Tron. So, metagame. I suppose on the draw we want that. Could want Engineering Explosives to deal with some smaller stuff, but I think that might be going a little too far up the rabbit hole. Beyond that, I think our main deck's about where we want. Maybe cut Draenith Man straight here. Just straight. Just got to be really mindful of Magus of the Moon as much as we can. I think we keep this hand, but it's definitely a gamble against the LD Blood Moon deck, or Magus of the Moon deck. With I guess I'm fetching Blood Crypt here to seal the fire this elf. Doesn't feel great though. Devoted Druid got a lot better against said decks with the presence of okay. Don't really... I care about Relic, but I don't care about Relic, if that makes sense. Start by inquisitioning you. Then we're going to deal a whole lot of damage to ourselves. Kill your elf. And move on with our lives. Morning, Antis. How are you? Going to use this to try to bait the... Okay, so they just automatically let it resolve, sure. So go ahead and grab the forest here, since seems like they're just going to let me resolve. The deck that I copied that did extremely well did not have Stomping Ground in it. Oftentimes, the choice you make whenever you're adding a fourth color to a Jund Shadow list, because they added white for Magistrates, something or other. Are they just going to continue ripping lands straight till... Glorybringer? It'd be a little rough if they did. Yeah, I'm not too worried about killing Goyf. I'm more worried about killing me. If they want to exert to kill my Goyf, I'm perfectly fine with that exchange. Well, I guess we have to hope that they don't have another Glory Banger in hand. Fatal Push doesn't protect us against much. got lucky there. Yeah, Lurrus could have been correct. Honestly, a lot of times I'm sitting here playing with Lurrus, I forget about Lurrus in these matchups where like it kind of matters, but kind of doesn't. Yeah, Lurrus plus Goyf would have set up lethal, and we wouldn't have had to rip the fetch land to win. So yeah, that was definitely correct, Antis. I completely... I don't know why I blank on Lurrus sometimes, like in these grindier matchups. I'm just like, oh, wait, yeah. But got a little bit lucky there. I don't know why, as to why they exerted. I'm not sure. 2 shots with Glorybringer would have just killed us. Especially since I had Lurrus in the wings, even though I forgot about it. I don't think it was correct to exert. I don't know. I'm just happy to escape with the 2-1 this morning. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. I mean, we certainly played well in some spots. I'm not going to sit here and say that every win this morning was luck, but there were certainly, like, forgetting about Lurrus there, as Antis pointed out. Certainly were some mind slips this morning. Once again, kind of both a product of me not sleeping well last night and in a bit of a hurry with having to get ready for work here in a couple minutes. But yeah, opponent definitely punted with the Glorybringer exert. Beyond that, because even if we would have cast Lurrus and the Tarmogoyf, we still would have been dead without them exerting. So, reasons. First matchup, lost to Jeskai Control. That deck definitely feels like a deck that's well positioned in the current meta with all of this Lurrus small creature nonsense going on. You know, Verdicts, Lightning Helixes, Path to Exile, Snapcaster Mages. Basically a whole bunch of pile of stuff you don't want to be facing as most of the Lurrus decks, whether it be Devoted Druid, whether it be us, whether it be Burn, especially when you pair that with Archmage's Charm and Cryptic Command. That's a whole lot of card advantage to overcome. Ability to shut down almost all these small creature strategies. Has enough go against the versions of Jund without Liliana, especially. So I think that Jeskai deck that we played in round 1 might actually be very well positioned in the current meta. Burn, having played a ton of the Burn side and some against Death Shadow with Burn, or some with Death Shadow against Burn, I'm kind of familiar of the patterns that you have to try to play to beat Burn. And then against Gruul here, you know, once you get a big boy in play, they honestly have a hard time dealing with it, and then them punting with the Glorybringer didn't really help, and then us evading like 1 or 2 draw steps in game 1 kind of helped out a little bit too. So sometimes that's what you gotta do. You gotta go for the win a little bit, you know, hope to dodge a draw step or 2, and you can beat what you can beat and can't what you can't. So anywho, unfortunately that's going to be both the end of the stream and then the end of this particular YouTube or video over on YouTube, because I have to get ready for work this morning. So I hope everybody has a great day out there. Thank you for Antis and Razzie for hanging out this morning. Hope everybody has a great day. This has been John for MTG Nexus.